Hello world, and welcome to We the People, an American pod show. Today, we have Bill Hernandez with us. Hello, Bill.
How you doing, man? Good to see you, buddy.
Nice to see you.
Thanks a lot.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks. This is great.
Man, we're honored to have you here.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks very much.
So,
I'm kind of wondering what I'm doing here, but it's all
yeah,
good.
what
it's
is
all
going
good.
on?
What have I done to, be worthy
here.
of getting on a show?
Yeah. So, I want to start early on and walk our way through, just kind of like life pieces and see if there's any nuggets. One of the big things on the show that I like to capture is like moments of inspiration or some sort of positivity or a lesson that you've learned through something, and try to capture that and see if we can get your story line as well. So I think it would be fair to start. Were you born in Portland?
I am from Levittown, Long Island. I'm a New Yorker.
A New Yorker.
But I think I've lost my accent.
Yeah.
Until I go back, I can pick it up in about 2 days.
So how long did you live in New York then?
I left New York when I was 20. I'm
Okay.
64 now, so I left when I was 20, went to school in Tucson, Arizona, went to the University of Arizona.
Okay.
And majored in radio television there.
Radio television.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
Wait, radio television.
That was the major. It wasn't like broadcast communications. It was just radio television. And I figured, back then I said, well, I like watching TV. I like listening to the radio, so I might as well major in it. But it worked out. It's been a great career for me over 40 years.
So was it actually two separent things, radio
it really was,
and television?
Yeah. I mean, you had to produce a radio show to graduate, and you had to produce, I think, like a 30-second or 60-second public service announcement to graduate.
Okay.
So you had access to radio and TV. But back then, the technology was just so different. I was telling Megan before, with these cameras, you had to have humans actually running them,
Right.
Yeah.
And with headsets.
Headsets and everything, yeah.
Rolling them in and rolling
And the big
them
thing
out.
is, I remember when we were in the studio, when I was interning at the CBS station in Tucson, and if it was a two-shot, and they say, okay, zoom into the anchor. It's like, oh, I get to do a zoom in, It's like, big, that was big.
Trying to capture all nice and smooth.
Yeah.
If you jarred
Then
it
after the
with
show, you'd go, man, did you see that zoom? Bill, that was smooth.
That was a smooth zoom. Totally
It was
different.
a lot of fun, yeah. And I have this picture when I worked at news in Tucson, and you had these, they called it the TK-76. It was huge. It was maybe 30 pounds, but you had this camera, you had a 3/4-inch deck that you had on the other shoulder. You had this big old light belt,
right?
Big old light on the camera. I don't even know how we moved back then, But I think that explains my back pain now.
Yeah.
All those years of carrying that gear.
Right. It's funny because right before we went live here, we were talking about that, and I was explaining to him that that thing just reminds me of what was his name?
Geraldo Rivera.
Geraldo Rivera.
Yeah.
Running around in the war zones, capturing these shots, and I mean these things they're like a big block, like a boom box.
They are, man. They're huge. And I remember I just used to just practice holding the camera on my shoulder for 30 minutes just to see if I could do it, because when you're running, you don't want it to be shaky or anything, but now it's just so easy. You just take your phone and you just shoot it. Like I was telling you, my phone shoots 4K.
Right.
The only thing I'm always telling people, hold it horizontal, don't hold it vertical. Horizontal, man.
So then I imagine that going from New York to Tucson, completely different.
Oh yeah, man. I was just 20 and I just wanted to get away, and I liked warm weather, and I had applied for a whole bunch of different schools. I knew I wanted to go into radio television, but Tucson, it just worked out.
So did you ever get around radio in
No,
New York
I just stuck with TV.
Okay, but before you left to Tucson, did you
No, I
ever
never
mess
did
with
anything
it?
with radio. I used to do this, well, after Tucson, I lived in Wichita, Kansas, and I used to do this radio show where we would read classified ads for the radio for blind people.
Okay.
So they could
That's
just
kinda
listen.
cool, though.
Yeah, so that was kind of fun, but that was kind of the only radio experience I had.
Yeah, I'm actually hoping to get a guy on here for deaf people. He does sign language.
Oh yeah.
And he does it for events and music videos and things of that nature. Where he'll do it, and he really encourages us to put the words on the bottom. I forget what that's called.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But he wants us to do that. And we were looking at that, and being as we don't really have a sponsor at this time. Anybody want to be a sponsor? Hit me up.
I'm not sure if there's some kind of broadcast requirement that you have to have some kind of access for deaf people. I know that when I worked at Nike, all our videos had to be transcribed.
Right, transcribed. That's it. Yeah. So, but he was encouraging us to transcribe every video if we could. And I was looking at it. Yeah. And I looked at like the setup of it, and I was like, man, some of these are like, $500-600.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. The last concert I saw Ringo Starr, and I'd never seen this at a concert, but there was a section. There was a woman. There were like maybe 20 deaf people towards the side of the stage, and she was just like interpreting the songs. But it was so cool. I thought,
Yeah, that's exactly what he does.
Yeah,
he does that type of stuff. So we're hoping to get him on eventually.
You hoping to get Ringo on?
No, that would be cool. If you,
I'll stick around if he's going to be on today.
Right. So then, talk to me about New York back then. Was New York different than it is today? Imagine, right?
Totally I think it was just a great place to grow up. I don't know if I want to live there. I love Portland. Portland's just extremely livable. I have a very close friend who still lives there. I went back for his wedding a couple of months ago. And just driving, he lives in Queens, and the wedding was in New Jersey. And you had to drive through Manhattan to get to Jersey, to get to the Jersey Tunnel. And it was just like so stressful, man. Just the commute going through the city. And
what time of the day?
It was like afternoon.
So like
it was like a Saturday around 1 o'clock. It was just like I said, just like so. There was a lot of construction going on, and I wasn't even driving. My buddy was driving. He's not the best driver, he's just kind of like looking around, and so like I said, a great place to grow up, and I'm glad I left.
See, I went there one time to help a buddy move, and so I
pack
up the house. Yeah, he was in the Bronx, and I went down there to help pack up the stuff and help him move, right? And that was the only time I had been there. And he was like, "Hey man, come on, I'll fly you out. Everything would be awesome." I was like,
"Hey man, free trip to New York.
Do it." And he was telling me, he said, you gotta go down to Manhattan before lunch. Go down there right about 10, 11 o'clock, and just hang out by right where I remember the location. There's like a gold statue. I forget what the statue's called. And there's like Apple, and there's Central Park. So it's like right on the corner of Central Park.
Right.
And he's like, just hang out and wait until lunch comes. He's like, it's gonna change your life. And I was like, what? Completely. It literally there's
just
hardly
the amount of people.
The amount of people that just come out for lunch. Phenomenal. It was ridiculous. I was like, holy crap, this is crazy. Because I didn't. First off, the sidewalks are like roads, right?
Yeah.
So I seen that, right? And I'm like, this is a massive sidewalk. It's taking up a whole lane, And just to see all the people come out was just like, whoa.
Yeah,
and I was just a spectator, just watching go from nothing to just
sea of people. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's definitely worth. I don't know if maybe there's like a YouTube video of it out there somewhere where people could see. I would imagine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I remember my uncle Bob. He's retired. He used to be a detective in New York City, and he was ex-FBI and ex-CIA.
Okay.
But I'll never forget the first time my buddies and I were going into the city to see The Exorcist. I think we were like 15. We were going to take the train. The train took you right into Penn Station to get off. It's pretty easy.
Right.
But it was around the time when Son of Sam was kind of terrorizing New York. It was the summer, whatever summer that was. And he goes, "Okay, I'm going to give you one piece of advice. Just look straight ahead, look angry, and don't look up." I always remembered that. So I could imagine when you're looking at that sea of people, they probably all looked like looking straight ahead, looking angry, and Well, I'll never forget that. It's like, because if you're walking around in the city and you see someone looking up at the buildings, you're kind of a target.
Yeah, well, and
so thank you, Uncle Bob.
Well, that's exactly what it was too. Was because I'm from the West Coast. Born and raised in this Pacific Northwest, and so it was. Yeah, it was crazy. That was the first place I got to see the McDonald's that had the touch screens and.
Oh yeah.
So at the time, McDonald's wasn't. This is probably around 2009, somewhere in there, and we didn't have that here at all. And the McDonald's that I went to was I want to say it was 3 stories. It was in one of the buildings.
Wow.
In one of the buildings, and it was like 3 stories high. You know, the seating was.
Yeah.
And so you would like go up, and it was just like, right? And but the ordering, you would order, and there was like a little touch machine, and I was like, whoa. I was like, this is the future. You know, coming back to the West Coast, I was like, I seen it. The touch screens. It's the future. That's
the future is now. I really think we're getting to a point with like Postmates that we'll never have to leave our house. We can do everything and just stay on our couch with our phone and get boxes delivered from Amazon Prime. And it's just changed so much. That's pretty funny, actually.
I was in a meeting, and there was probably about 60 people or so, give or take, in the room. And this was at OWAMI, Oregon Association of Minority Entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And I'm there, and one of the individuals talked about Uber Eats and asked if anybody had used Uber Eats or Grubhub. Like, nobody in the room. And this is like probably 2 months ago.
Man, no one had heard of it?
And nobody had even said, and I'm like looking around. I'm like one of like 3 of us in the room that had held our hands up. And it's exactly what you said. I mean,
come on, man, you can't leave your house to go get food. You need to have food delivered now. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It's cool though. It's interesting, you know, and like you said, I think it's just gonna speed up too. Like even with Amazon, like it was Christmas. I think we ordered something on
Amazon Prime. That's crazy.
It was like on a Thursday, so I think Christmas fell on Monday. Was it Monday this year?
I think so. I think I'm not sure. I don't remember actually. Tuesday maybe.
Yeah, sometime whenever it fell, it was surprising that we got our delivery on Sunday. We're getting this item on a Sunday. You know, from Amazon.
Yep, like the van pulls up, and they have an orange vest for some reason. I don't know why they wanted an orange vest.
Right.
No, I think the thing is now, you order something, I want it now. You know, I don't want to wait a day, you know.
Yeah, it's getting interesting.
I want it sent to my house before they know that I want it.
Right. That's what it's coming down to, right?
Really, I think we'll get to a point where even like when you go to the store, you know, you have to sign your name after your credit card. I think it's just going to get to a point where it's your thumbprint, and we'll just say everything.
Yeah.
They'll know. Okay, Bill, this is what you shopped. This is what you bought last time. We have your groceries all ready for you.
You think it'll do the eye thing, or is that
maybe,
too?
I think who knows? I mean, I think the technology now, and I think about growing up in high school on Long Island, like the thought of email or texting.
Right.
You know, you just went to your buddy's house. You didn't say, "Hey, man, I'm coming over."
Yeah.
And we survived too. You know, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because you don't get to. I don't feel like it's common now to not call somebody, like to just show up at their house. That's
the way we
weird.
did it. I mean, there was no other way to do it. You know.
I remember doing that as well. Like I remember, you know, you'd ride your bike over and.
You're right. Yeah.
Hey, what's up? And then like their parents knew, like they were just like, oh, Juan's here. You know, like it didn't matter. It wasn't like.
You know, when I was 16, my buddies and I, we took our 10-speed bikes and we went from Long Island up to upstate New York. And I'll never forget, we left around midnight. And I'm thinking, when I look back, I think, like, my parents weren't really even concerned. We didn't have cell phones or anything.
Right.
Like, you kind of let me leave at midnight. And then we rode our bikes to a ferry and then took it over to Connecticut. And we kind of, you know, we left at midnight. That would never happen now. I would never let my kids do that now. I'd be texting them every 5 minutes. You okay?
Nervous? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Maybe they were trying to get rid of me. Who knows?
Who knows? They're like, he's expendable. We can have another kid.
It'll be fine. If you're not back in a month, we'll come looking after you.
Concerned.
Actually, we made it up there. It took two days of riding. Then we were so exhausted that we had to have my friend's brother-in-law had to come in a van to pick us up to take us back.
So did you use like a payphone, or how did you?
Yeah, it was a place called Elizaville, New York, and we went to the general store and just used the phone.
Use the phone.
Hey man, we're too exhausted. Can you please pick us up?
But he couldn't.
It's crazy what you do when
trip.
you're 16. You know, like you don't even think about it.
You know, I actually said something to my my mother about that, because in Longview. So I was born in Longview, Washington.
Wow, okay.
And
that's a small town, kind of, or not?
Yeah, it's definitely smaller than Portland. You know, I mean, it gets smaller in America, of course.
Yeah.
But so I remember like riding our bikes all over town. Like we would ride from Longview to Kelso, they're pretty close to each other. I mean, they're almost one. You would, like here, you would say it was a metropolitan area.
Right.
And we would ride our bikes all over all the time, and it wasn't even an issue. And my nephew is like probably 3 blocks from the school, and I was like, he can walk, like my mom was like, oh, we got to go give him a ride. And I'm like, what?
Really? Right, come on.
Let him
right.
walk.
Yeah,
it's
really.
not even that big a deal. And she's like, oh, you can't do that. And I'm like, why can't you? Let him do it. He'll be fine.
Wait till you have kids, and then you'll understand.
Yeah.
I don't even remember like Halloween. Like you see parents now. It's like they're all with the kids, and we just went out. Our parents didn't come with us trick or treating.
Right. Yeah.
You'd go out, you trick or treat, you empty your bag, you go back out again.
Right. You'd figure out which houses you're gonna go to.
You always knew which ones had the big candy bars, right?
Yeah. Interesting. So. Okay, so you go to Tucson.
We've got to take some shifts here along the way, like from Tucson to Halloween or whatever.
So you're in Tucson. You're doing the college thing there.
Yeah, majoring in radio, TV.
Learning quite a bit about radio and television at that point.
Yeah, doing some production, and then I interned at a TV station there my senior year when I was at the University of Arizona. I was at KOLD, and I remember I was a teleprompter guy, so the scripts would come in. I'm not sure how they even do it now, but it would be like 50 pages, and you had to like manually take each sheet and roll it through this machine. And then if it got jammed up or something, you were dead, man. You were like, the anchors would be like, you'd be in some heat there.
So it would roll through.
I'm trying to understand. I can't even remember I just remember like you had a stack of sheets of paper. That was the script for the anchors, and then you have to take each sheet and just kind of put it in this machine, and then it just kind of rolled through. Then you take the next sheet and you roll it through. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine now it's just like they type it. They probably don't even type it into the computer.
I don't know how they do it now. And I used to think before I studied radio TV, I thought, wow, how do they memorize all that?
Right, it's a lot.
Wait a minute, the words are right there on the screen.
Yeah, and they're just watching it. Well, especially if you're looking at the camera, right, and it's right alongside of it. You're talking to them.
There's no words on these TVs and cameras here.
No, nothing. This is all impromptu.
It is, just so people know we're not reading scripts.
That's right. This was not planned.
We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Yeah, none of that. So, okay. Well, then that's cool though. I mean, that was probably some lessons you learned there, right?
Yeah, so I interned at the TV station. Then ended up after I graduated, I got a job as a news photographer, which was kind of fun. And then, but a lot of it was, you're chasing fires and things like that. But it was a great experience. And my goal at that time was to work at a TV station in Wichita, Kansas, because there was a gentleman named Larry Hatterberg who had been the news photographer of the year for the whole country. Mm-hmm. And he worked at Kake, K-A-K-E in Wichita. And that was my goal. And I just remember sending him a tape, and it all worked out. And I flew out to Wichita, Kansas, and lived there for a couple of years and learned a lot from Larry Hatterberg. So it was a great learning experience. In Kansas, yeah.
Were you like chasing tornadoes?
There would be times where on a tornado watch you'd have to go out on the freeway, just set up your tripod, and you'd maybe see like 30, 40 miles away. You see this wind tunnel. It's like, all right, man. I'm like, how close is that going to come to me?
Right.
Yeah, I remember that. The weather was just like, I loved Wichita, but I always knew that I'd leave because the winters are just absolutely brutal.
It's like snow?
Oh, snow. Oh, my God. Yeah, that's why it's like, it's so funny being here when it snows. If there's like the possibility of snow, people freak out. It's like, come on, man. I lived in Wichita, Kansas. But they were always prepared. If there was like, if snow was in the forecast, all these trucks would be on the streets. So the city wouldn't shut down the way it does here.
Yeah, I spent some time in Alaska, like over my life.
Oh, wow. I've never been there.
Yeah.
I took a cruise there once. But
it's beautiful country. And when I came down here, after I got out of the military around 2008, first winter came, it snowed, and I like busted out my, my bin of clothes. Because in Alaska, you have layers, and so you'll break out this bin, and it's got like all different like size gloves, thick ones, thin ones, all these different layers. I'm breaking it out, and my sister's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, getting ready for winter. And she's like, this is going to be gone tomorrow. And sure enough, the snow melted off and it was gone, and we didn't see any more snow that year.
Well, the winter is pretty brutal in Alaska.
Oh yeah, I mean it's not like like I mean, some places you can, but it's not like you get like, 25 feet of snow or anything like that. It's not like that. It's like, it's cold, it'll get like 15 below and then it will just stay there. And so the snow will kind of float around and it just sticks. And then, they'll shove it out of the way, and now the side of the roads will have snow, and it's all slushy. Because the temperature's going up and coming down, and then it'll turn into slush, and then it gets nasty, and then your car's like covered in this slush on the side.
I remember all that.
Plug it in your car. You have to plug in so that you have to put a heat on your oil pan.
Wow.
And so, like, other than that, I mean, it's...
Other than that?
Other than that...
Other than that, you couldn't breathe, it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, that was the other thing. Like, so I was up by Delta Junction, and we used to have to wear, like, these balaclavas that had, like, a steel in them, like a face mask, that had, like, a steel on your face, because if it's cloth and you're 20 below, that cloth would get moist, and then it will freeze. And so they have to put, like, this... like steel mesh in between the cloth, so that way when you're breathing it doesn't freeze to your face.
Other than that.
And gas.
You could do a show other than that.
Yeah, the other one is gas. So when you're pumping gas, if it's 40, if it's a really cold day and it's like 30 to 40 below, then your gloves, you have to make sure you wear a nice glove when you're pumping gas, because if it got on your hand, the gas touching your hand could cause frostbite.
Other than that.
Decent
that's
life.
pretty funny to even think about that. I haven't even pumped gas since I've been in Portland since '89. It's just like this concept. Do you know that they even try to pass laws that we can pump our own gas?
People are fighting for that?
I think there's only a couple of states where you can't pump your gas, right? I think. I'm not sure.
Right. Most places.
I just remember, you get out, you just pump your own gas. It's no big thing.
It's normal. Yeah.
Don't get any on your hands.
That's right.
Well, I got an itch in my eye there.
Right. So, okay, so then you're in Kansas.
I'm in Kansas working at KAKE, and I remember my next step in that journey was we had taken, and when I worked at Cake, it was the most incredible experience. I mean, I got the opportunity. I went to Israel twice. We did a documentary on the life of Jesus, which was just so fascinating. And then we also did some preseason documentary specials on like the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Bears, and just kind of hung out at spring training in baseball and football.
Stuff.
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, I always knew that I wouldn't end up living in Wichita, but the opportunity that station offered me to, like I said, go to Israel. I also we did a special in England, and I'm a huge Beatles fan, and we actually spent a week in Liverpool. And I went to the Beatles Museum, and we were filming like where John and Paul wrote Penny Lane. Here's the bus stop where John and Paul wrote Penny Lane. We went to Strawberry Fields, and just went to the Cavern where they first started. So yeah, Wichita, it's just fond memories, and just a great job.
Did you get a chance to watch that movie yesterday?
Oh yeah,
that was awesome, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I'm such a huge Beatles fan. I'm such a purist. It's like, please, don't try to recreate Beatles songs. But I thought it was cool. I thought it was interesting when he sees John Lennon, as if, how that could have been. But I can't imagine what the world would be like if we didn't have Beatles music. So
I did a graphic. I forget what John Lennon's wife.
Yoko Ono.
Yeah.
So I should say Yoko Ono.
So she was talking about in a recent one of the documentaries. I don't know exactly which one I was watching, but I watched a documentary on it, and she was talking about the idea of John Lennon and capturing for the cover was going to be clouds in his glasses,
Yeah.
And
isn't that the cover of Imagine? The Imagine album?
Yeah. And so she had talked about that, and I had kind of always visualized it in my own mind of what that kind of looked like, right? And then I went and looked, and it was not what I thought. It was had this like kind of a creepy, kind of weird, because of technology and the way that they had to get the clouds in his glasses, so it was literally, you don't see his eyes, you just see clouds. That's it, and so I actually did some stuff with like Photoshop where I was like, if you put clouds in the glasses because today we can do that. We don't have to be separated. It was pretty cool. It was an interesting thing. It's just a random moment I was thinking about, because when I heard that, I was like, huh, but it was not at all what I thought.
Were you a Beatles fan growing up?
I I listened to them.
Yeah, I'm such a huge Beatles fan.
Them and the other one was the Beatles and the Beach Boys.
Wow, okay.
Was another one that we would hear often.
Yeah.
You know.
Did you ever know about Brian Wilson, how like messed up his life was? I just read his autobiography, and apparently he was under medication. He was controlled by some doctor, and
yeah,
it's kind of an interesting story.
Yeah, and
he's afraid of the ocean too, which I always thought was kind of fascinating.
Right, that's kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
It's a little.
Come on, you're a beach boy. You're afraid of the ocean. How does that work out?
Yeah, even that movie that came out was pretty good. I don't remember what the name of that one is.
On Brian Wilson?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know there was a movie that came out.
There was one that came out. I want to say it's like, I always say everything was a couple years ago, but it's realistically probably about 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow, okay.
It came out, and it was good.
Was it
I mean,
documentary? I'd like to see it, actually.
It wasn't a documentary as more as it was a movie.
Oh, okay.
You know, but it was done by the line, the timeline. Yeah. And so it was really cool. Like, it showed a lot of that, but it also kind of touched on what you're talking about there about the drugs and kind of being controlled through that, and just kind of like that mental state of what he was going through a little bit. So, because that seems to be a touch point, right?
Oh, yeah.
When you think about his story. So,
oh, yeah, yeah.
And the music that came from that, and I think, if anything, when I kind of think about that, I always feel like it's a shame that sometimes the art comes through those addictions or those intoxicating moments.
That's funny you say that, because I'm obsessed with like reading rock and roll biographies, and all of them that I've read, like Neil Young, James Taylor, Paul Simon, or Pete Townsend, they've all dealt with like drug issues,
right?
Which I find, I'm not sure if like, does that mean you?
It can't
like,
be.
Do I need to do heroin if I'm going to try to write great songs? Or
right, you have to chase that down. Well, I mean, because even back to like jazz, like all the history of jazz. I mean, it's kind of littered through there. Some of those heroin addictions. I mean, we could say Kurt Cobain, right?
Yeah.
Which is another sad situation. Ended,
tragic.
Tragic. So so now you're past Wichita.
Yeah, so when one of the trips we took when I was working in Wichita, we went to Los Angeles to do some filming, and I remember seeing a show called Eye on LA, and I thought it was like the coolest show. It was really hip, stylish shooting and editing, and I became obsessed with wanting to work in LA, so I started trying to pursue that. I asked our general manager at the station in Wichita if he could help me out, and next thing I knew, I got flown out there. I was offered a job. So I was working in LA for a while, but actually hated it, because I never realized about unions were so tight. In Wichita, you could do everything. You could shoot, you could edit. But I remember in LA, if I filmed something and I wanted to go look at it, I'd have to hand it to an engineer whose only job was to sit at this desk, take my tape and put it in a machine. So maybe lasted maybe like 9 months. But again, it was a great experience. Got a lot out of my system, because I thought, well, I want to live in LA or New York. But
right, and then you've seen the strong union feel.
Yeah, and I just wanted to have hands-on for every aspect.
Right, because there's
it was funny, because the show I worked on, they were the first show, and this is kind of like typical of what kind of programs were on that show. They were the first TV station to do a wet T-shirt contest in 3D.
Oh,
like, all right. Well, this is deep. Yeah, but everything was always about hairstylists or exercising or fashion. And,
right.
Yeah.
So you go through all these different little obstacles, right? And then eventually you end up spending most of your career with a company here locally, right?
Yeah. So the job in LA only lasted like 9 months, and then I went back to Wichita for a little bit, and then I always wanted to work in Seattle at a station called King TV.
Okay.
And then in '88, I got a job at King. And, it's kind of funny when you I've learned that if you really want something in life, if you just pursue it and just keep at it, like everything's just happened for me because I've just been persistent.
Right.
And I've had just a great career. But so the Seattle job, I worked on a TV show called Tracy and Company, which is probably maybe the worst show ever produced on TV. But it only lasted like 8 months.
Is it still out there somewhere?
No, it only lasted like 8 months. It was supposed to be a strong lead-in for the 5 o'clock news. It was on at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
But I'll never forget, there was the moment we all knew was when our host, Brian Tracy, had a guest called Eric Bogosian. He had written a play called Talk Radio. So they came back from a break, and Brian is with Eric Bogosian, and he goes, "Hi, welcome back to the show. I'm here with," and then he blanked out on his name. And we're all going, "Come on, Brian, say his name." And then he had to ask him his name.
Right.
And the guy's looking at it like, "Eric Bogosian." And so that's when we all knew that, no, man, this isn't going to last.
Got to him.
Instead of like trying to make a joke out of it. But I'll never forget that. We were all in the office watching that. Just, say his name. What do you mean? What was your name again? I'm sorry.
And it's live.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was live. Yeah.
Too much pressure. Too much pressure.
So then I was laid off after 9 months and had 4.5 months for, really, they gave great severance. I spent that summer just kind of hanging out looking for jobs, and ended up in Portland at KGW TV back in '89, and worked at KGW TV till '96 on a show called Good Evening. I think it's called PM Magazine, then it changed to Good Evening. And I was a photographer, editor there, and decided in '96 I heard about a job that was opening up at Nike, and I thought, man, wow, that might be pretty cool. Then I worked at Nike from '96 until I retired in November of 2019. So almost 24 years at Nike. And that was fantastic, man. What a great ride that was.
Right. I would imagine you got to see all sorts of interesting things.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
through that.
Been all around the world and just have met the world's greatest athletes.
Right.
No complaints. It's fantastic.
Is there a I don't imagine that you like, I mean, you meet a lot of these athletes, but you're not like interviewing them like I'm doing, right? Or are you more?
Usually, I would be filming,
right?
And I'd go with a writer, producer, and we'd have usually sports marketing would give us like 20 minutes or something with an athlete.
With the athlete.
Yeah.
Okay. That seems like a really cool, interesting life, right? Going from New York, pursuing
New
radio.
York, Tucson, yeah. New York, Tucson, Wichita, LA, back to Wichita, Seattle, Portland. And who knows where I'll end up next. My kids think I should be living in California.
See, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm like, when did Nike really like kick off? You know, I'm trying to think like what was Nike going through as you were going through your education and doing all that?
I heard some crazy, like if you had invested like $100 in Nike when they first started, like in the 70s, you'd be like a millionaire or something like that. But, but you know, the corporate life is just a little bit different from working in news, because with news, you have a certain amount of time to shoot and edit a story. Once it airs, you know, you're kind of done with it.
Right.
But in the corporate world, there's layers of approval that, you know, a lot of eyes have to see things, especially when you're dealing with executives.
Right.
But it's a little could be a little frustrating, but still.
I feel like for the sake of time, you know, like when we talk about your career at Nike, which is such a prominent name, you know, in the market in general, you know, across the world, it's a well-known brand. I feel like there's all sorts of stories and things you could dive into, right? But I think, you know, for the sake of, like I was saying, once again, for time and where we're at on this show, I really want to kind of look more at like what you got going on, right? Now that you've shifted from that brand, let's talk a little bit about Bill's brand, right? Because I know you're
that's just kind of
right?
starting out. So yeah, I mean,
you're making an
a lot of things kind of fell into place that I wasn't expecting.
Right.
The timing was great. My two daughters, Gabby and Isabel, had just completed college. I thought, plus I was going to be 64 years old. And then I had taken 3 weeks off in the summer, and I just played guitar every day and realized, man, this is just so much fun that I just love playing. I would play like 4 or 5 hours a day.
Right.
And I decided I just can't go back to work anymore. And I decided that life is just too short not to pursue what you really feel like moves your soul.
Right.
And I'm not sure where it will lead. I'm just having fun. I'm home every day. Like I said, play through 4 or 5 hours. I'm writing songs. I'm going to open mics. I'm recording a CD with this Gary Waters and Forest Grove at Hartford Studios, and I'm just having a blast.
Kind of
I'm on this show, you know.
Right. Kind of.
And I have next Saturday. I'm not sure when this airs, but next Saturday, the 22nd, I have my first solo 2-hour gig at Insomnia Coffee House on Baseline.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's just step by step, and I jam with these 4 buddies of mine. We're called Bad Report Card. We jammed yesterday, and we just drink whiskey and play old rock and roll. So,
all right. I like it.
If I had a message, I'd say follow your dream. Pursue what you feel passionate about.
Right.
And don't be set to any kind of outcome. I mean, I'm not going to be selling out stadiums of 80,000 people, but
yeah, but you're retired from.
I'm
Yankees.
Retired. Yeah, I'm just having.
You get to do what you want now, right?
My financial guy won't talk to me, but other than that,
other than that, we're good.
Food is overrated, man.
Yeah, who needs that?
Yeah, who needs that? You can live in Mexico for $5 a day on a blanket.
Right.
So I'll be just playing my songs.
Yeah. So then we want to give you that platform here. I know we have your guitar here.
Yeah.
We also have the support of our in-house crew who's going to back us up here.
Wow, cool. All right.
So we can get the camera back a little bit and get an angle on you.
Should I play a little something?
Yeah. Let's hear a little bit.
How much time do we have?
We got, looks like, let me see, I got a message coming in from our next guest. Says they're about 5 to 8 minutes late. So we probably got about 10 minutes or so.
Because I could do Inagata Davida. It's a half hour long. I'm not sure.
You
remember that
We're going to
song?
say no.
Inagata Davida, baby. All right, should I just play?
Yeah.
All right, well, this is kind of an autobiographical song that's kind of short, but it will kind of give you a little bit of a clue about where I am in my life right now.
So this is you say autobiographical song.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about the song then. Where's it coming from? And
it's coming from my heart, and it's just about me, and it would explain like where I am in my life right now.
Okay.
And it's just a kind of a short song, but it's called "My Time Is Running Out."
My time is running out.
Yeah, and I'm not dying or anything. I'm just I'm still okay.
Still okay. All right.
Did you hear about the guy who quit his job to find fortune and fame? He had a website and a YouTube channel, and yet nobody knew his name. A famous sports company told him, go out and chase a crazy dream. I can't believe he took that literally. His lack of fans has ruined his esteem. You might think this is a plug for my music, and for that there is no doubt. But I just turned 64 in January, and my time is running out. And my time is running out. And my time is running out. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, just a fun little thing there.
Good little jingle. So, as I've been
self-deprecating humor, I've learned even through Toastmasters is kind of the way to go.
Right. So, how has that been? I mean, have you always played the guitar like over the years?
I played growing up a lot, and just kind of. I was married for 22 years and never really picked it up during that 22 years. I was busy raising kids, and I mean I would play sometimes, but when I got divorced 5 years ago, it was really great therapy, and I just started getting back into it and started started doing online dating, which can give you some great material.
I was going to say.
Hasn't worked out. I'm still single, but like I said, it gives you great material, things to work with.
Look forward to that song.
Well, I got plenty of songs about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just having fun. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's good stuff. Looks like we have about 5 minutes left. So, you touched base a little bit on it, but I want to give you the opportunity. So you look out here, you got cameras in front of you.
Okay.
The idea is to get your message in front of the world. Do you have any words that you would like to share with the world?
Yes, I do actually. I would say that it's so important to find out what moves you. and whether or not you call it your dharma, it's whatever gets you up in the morning, and follow whatever that is. Just follow your dreams, follow your passion, because for me personally, I think life is too short. There's no guarantees, and unfortunately, in the last couple of months, I've had some friends that have passed away at really young age, 63 and 58, and I don't want to be on my deathbed with any regrets. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure where this will lead, but all I know is that it just kind of soothes my soul, and I'm just having fun. So I say, follow your dreams, follow your passion, whatever it is.
Okay. And then I have another question to...
Is this a ringer?
Seems
like, all right.
It's a ringer. So going through, you know, back in New York, looking back to then, knowing that you're going out to Tucson to go to school, you know there's challenges ahead. How did you find something to, you know, approach those challenges and to just keep going? I mean, clearly through the path, you didn't expect that you were going to have this career at Nike, did you? You know,
not at all, man. Never thought that.
Right.
And even to think, you know, 5 years ago when I got divorced, I never thought that I'd be like working on a CD with, like, you know, I have like 25 original songs. I never thought that. And he was like, I was in the studio yesterday laying down drums with the drummer of Steppenwolf. The guy's name was Ron Hurst. And I'm like, this moment, because Ron Hurst, he lives in Hillsborough, and that's the studio's in Forest Grove. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, oh my God, like Ron Hurst is right there putting the drums down for a CD for like original songs that I wrote. You know, so it's all just, it all is just a slow evolution, man. And, you know, I don't know how to explain it, but I think just follow your heart and always just listen to your voice and your gut.
Right.
Are you doing what you love doing?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, for sure.
Is there let me ask you something. Is there something that you, like a long-term dream that you have? Whatever, however crazy it is.
Yeah, I've always wanted to be around the music industry.
Wow, okay.
In some fashion, in some way.
Cool.
You know, and as I'm sitting here, I'm talking to you, an individual who's talking about Steppenwolf playing the drums. You're playing a song. I've got to hear your story in regards to that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I've had the experience of like being in the green rooms at like the Roseland and meeting some of the artists. And so, yeah, you know, I don't really know, you know, most of my study has been in management and leadership. And so I don't know how that eventually evolves towards the music industry. I've always thought it would be something cool to be part of, you know, in some sort of a one way or another. I don't really play or sing. So
other than that.
Right. Other than that.
I like that. I'm going to be using that live.
Yeah.
Man. I like that.
But you never know.
You never know.
Yeah,
hey,
you never know.
Life is a journey, and I've just always been blown away by the path that I've taken and where I've ended up, and who knows where, you know, it'll go next.
Right. I don't think I've actually chased it either, though. Does that make sense? I've just thought that'd be kind of cool.
You haven't quit your job.
I haven't quit my job to pursue
Really?
it.
Bill's leaving Nike to follow music? Wow, okay. Well,
is
he okay? Has anyone checked in on him lately?
Yeah. Is he still eating? He's got a roof over his head.
Like,
not
if you see me on the freeway with a sign that says, we'll play a song for food.
Yeah, busking.
Bill, is that you?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Give me a burger or something.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for coming on.
It's been great, man. We haven't even talked about Toastmasters, and that's how we met.
Right. We didn't talk about Toastmasters.
There's a lot. Can we do part 2, maybe?
Right. I think we should.
I have like 20 songs ready for you, man.
Right.
Come on.
We could. There's Toastmasters. There's actually hearing about the story of working at Nike, some of the stuff you went through there.
Yeah, man, I met some great athletes. And I mean, there's some really fun stories there with.
Do you have another song ready that you want to take us out with?
Sure. I mean, I could write a song. I wrote a song about a buddy of mine. It's a little bit longer than 30 seconds, though.
That's okay.
Okay.
You can take us out.
Well, can I explain what it's about?
Yeah.
So a buddy of mine, his name was Dan Mosley, and he owned West Coast Bento. He was actually responsible for bringing the whole bento craze to Portland in the late 80s. And he actually studied bento box lunches in Japan, and he, like I said, he brought the whole culture. So he started bento in the late '80s. Okay. But I knew him for 30 years, and when I went to his service, the pastor and everyone talked about like what an incredibly religious man he was, and how he went to church every Sunday, and he had this deep belief and conviction in with God. And my buddy and Mike were thinking, in 30 years, the new thing, I never once came up in a conversation. And I found that just fascinating that he had this like deep belief inside of him. We never talked about it.
Right.
But it just kind of inspired the song. It's called A Radical Sense of Comfort. Dan, oh Dan, I miss you, man. I wish I could have been a better friend to you. All the years I knew you, man, you never once mentioned, Dan, that you were a committed Christian man. I wish I'd known that about you, Dan, 'cause there's a thing or two I'm trying to understand about religion. I'd love to buy you a beer and spend some time bent in your ear. I have a question with the answer I fear. Are there angels guiding me? Or do I have a choice in the matter? What a radical sense of comfort if there's something higher than me when we gather. What a radical sense of comfort. What a radical sense of comfort. Are you trying to tell me something? Are you trying to send me a sign? Am I standing in the right direction? Dan, can you ease my mind? Are there angels guiding me? Or do I have a choice in the matter? What a radical sense of comfort if there's something higher than me when we gather. What a radical sense of comfort. What a radical sense of comfort. Dan, oh Dan, I miss you, man. I wish I could have been a better friend to you. Dan, oh Dan, Big Dan, Bento Dan, whatever they call you, man. I can't wait till we rendezvous. I can't wait till we rendezvous. I can't wait till we rendezvous. That's for you, Dan.
Thank you very much, Bill, for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Where we at? Camera. You see my hand. There we are. Okay, take us out.